So where will Kirk Cousins, the free agent veteran quarterback, sign during this NFL offseason? And how will this help shape the 2024 fantasy football season coming up? This is the Fantasy Sports Boss with another 2024 offseason player analyzer. And we start with Cousins today because, I'm doing this video on January 16th. And, we're still, in the just finished the wild card round of the 2023 playoffs, and free agency is still not going to be about a month away. But looking at the free agency, Kirk Cousins and his situation will have a huge effect on not only his own standing in fantasy football and in real life, but also the standing of multiple receivers depending on where he ends up. And of course, it will impact their fantasy value as well. Before I go any further, guys, though, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber to the channel. Now, as far as Cousins is concerned, so obviously we all know for the first time since he came into the NFL, he suffered a serious injury. Torn Achilles tendon, week 8, an aging quarterback, not the best thing. But, he is expected to be 100% for the start of the 2024 season. Now, prior to the injury, Cousins was phenomenal. 18 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions, over 2,300 passing yards. He had fantasy football outings 2 of the first 3 weeks. He hit over 30 points in fantasy. This has been the story of Cousins' career. He is extremely underrated. One of the better, most consistent regular season quarterbacks in the game. I mean, I know he gets a lot of deserved credit for struggling in the playoffs. Of course, losing at home to the Giants last year. Look at the Giants now. Inexcusable. But as far as regular season is concerned, Cousins has always been a really good player, good quarterback. And in fantasy, he's usually been in that 11, 12, 13 range overall, despite the fact he is not a runner by any stretch of the imagination. 4,000 plus yard seasons just, seem to be a drop in a bucket for him. 3 seasons of 30 or more touchdown passes. So Cousins has, even though he suffered the injury, has good momentum going into free agency. And now, very little has been said on this. Now, Cousins did talk about how, he's been blessed beyond belief. He's a very religious guy about how much money he's already made in his career. And that, he would be open to a hometown discount with the Vikings or home team discount with the Vikings. But there are some intriguing situations out there that he could potentially land in. And predominantly, chief among them are the Atlanta Falcons. So obviously, they need a quarterback. And obviously, they have an insane amount of weapons with Kyle Pitts at tight end, Drake London at wide receiver, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Rozier at running back. Like, this team is loaded offensively, but they're missing the most important piece, which is a quarterback. And that's what helped get Arthur Smith fired amongst the other lunacy that he had in terms of running the offense for the team. Now, I say Atlanta because if Bill Belichick winds up in Atlanta, which seems to be the hot rumor, he's going to want a veteran quarterback, I believe. I don't think Belichick wants to break in a rookie. Hence, and the Falcons have, won too many games to be in, unless they trade up, the Drake May, Caleb Williams sweepstakes. And the rest of the guys after that were Jaden Daniels and then down to Michael Penix and Bo Nix are just lesser prospects. So I could totally see Belichick opening up the vault for Cousins. And if Cousins signs with Atlanta, I've already said this, ever since Arthur Smith was fired, I am now open to going back in aggressively on these Atlanta players, in particular, Drake London. So if Kirk Cousins signs with the Falcons, given what we've seen in how he peppers his number one guy, which was Justin Jefferson with the Vikings, Drake London could absolutely go nuclear next season. No doubt about it. Easy. Kyle Pitts as well. Both of these guys could take off in a major way in fantasy football. Now, we have spoken about how Belichick does like to have committees at running back, so he very well could continue the Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson arrangement. But the bigger deal here would be, Cousins would continue to be a low-end QB1 in all formats. But Drake London would be right up against that low-end wide receiver 1, more high wide receiver 2. Because, again, The numbers haven't been pretty his first 2 years in the league, but his advanced metrics are glowing. The rate of separation he gets is as good as any receiver in football. Great route runner, great hands, tremendous separation. He's got all the traits you need to be a star wide receiver in this league. So if Cousins signs there, that's humongous. Of course, if he goes back to Minnesota, Justin Jefferson, in my opinion, is still the wide receiver one over Tyreek Hill because he's younger. I know Jefferson got hurt last year, but Hill, the nagging injuries are starting to pile up, and Hill's aging a little bit. Jefferson's still very young, so I would give Jefferson the advantage there. And then, you have some other teams like New England. Does he go to New England? I mean, that wouldn't be the best situation for him. I still think New England, with Gerard Mayo, is still a situation I'm going to avoid in fantasy purposes. But Kirk Cousins has a lot of say in how this offseason is going to shape up from a fantasy football perspective, as do the Chicago Bears with what they do with Justin Fields and Caleb Williams. That's for another video. So let me know what you think about Kirk Cousins. I mean, obviously, we all are in agreement that he's still a low-end quarterback one. But can you see him going to Atlanta? Does he go back to Minnesota? What are your thoughts on the players that would be impacted here? Post in the comments. More videos on the way, guys. Stay tuned.